Trump's global tariffs, especially on Indian imports, have caused multinational manufacturers to pause or terminate their plans to ship production out of China. Oh, we saw this yesterday.
I'd like to close out and get you 12 million, so count me in for 500,000.
No shot. Wait, are you serious?
Yes.
No shot.
100%.
I'm gonna, well, just one more time. Are you 100% serious?
100% serious, 500,000, you breached your goal.
Oh my God.
Wait, Mizkif is the founder of Airbnb?
Gosh. Yo, wait, then shout out to Airbnb.
That's it?
Yeah, we did it. Confetti. Oh my gosh, we did it. Wait, oh, this is great.
Wow. How much did you donate? I'm trying to raise awareness for genocide right now. Okay, I don't have time to be donating to this.
Making jokes about you with Mixon, Aiden are making jokes about you with Mr. Beast. I hate them.
We just need 1.7 mil left.
Have you guys hit the socialist stuff yet?
Maybe.
The socialist, Hasan, his son.
You think Hasan would donate? Try and give Hasan a call.
Guess he's donating. He needs the money for his crib.
So,
Wow, a bunch of multi-millionaires are making jokes about a guy who is actively trying to do his very best.
does he not know that he's a multimillionaire, or is he like, is this the poverty impersonation? Why does he say that? Why does he call other people multimillionaires like a like it's an insult?
Who is actively trying to do his very best about issues that none of them will ever speak on. How shocking. Who gives a dude? Ask them why it takes so long for Aiden Ross to like even say free Palestine after months and months.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine,
I'm gonna say
brother.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
As a fellow Jew, I'm here to tell you guys as well, free Palestine, and no innocent life deserves to ever be,
Oh,
taken
God.
away. Free Palestine. I stand with my people. Everyone in my chat, I stand with y'all. All right, much love, bro. Much love.
A lot of people in this realm, a lot of people in the content sphere love talking big shit, okay?
Uh-oh.
Ask them what their position is on Donald Trump. XQC and Aiden Ross literally promoted Donald Trump, okay? Ask them what their position is on Israel-Palestine. Ask them what their position is on free healthcare, you know what I mean? Any number of different things. Ask them how they feel now, 8 months in, after they promoted Donald Trump. Why won't they say anything? Why won't they say anything? Do they not care? Do they not have fans whose family members are under threat? There are people who stay silent when there is tremendous injustice happening in the world, okay? There are those who actually support the injustice and will loudly and proudly say they like it, okay? Then there are those who don't say shit and will attack those who at least have the dignity to speak out loud against these injustices.
Okay. Okay, little bro. Slow down there. You haven't saved Palestine yet. Oh yeah, Bad Empanada and the squirrel have been going off on Hasan all day today for interviewing that Zayo earlier. Not good. Not good. It's called chirping. Oh, yeah. Okay. What the fuck is this? My roommate is genuinely insane and is now destroying my belongings. Do you plan on putting the AC back anytime soon? I told you I have heat intolerance and get extremely sick when it's too hot. Funny how it's only your medical issues that are important, eh? Ooh. My cat is showing signs of heat sickness. The room won't cool down with the house at 70. Bullshit, my cats are fine. I keep my windows open and my vents closed. Stop unplugging my bike. Put it outside, where vehicles belong. It needs to be charged. There is an outlet outside. This was never an issue before. I'm not debating with you any longer. Please stop touching my bike and ripping the charger out. It would be very expensive if something broke. I will move it when I want to use the chair. It belongs outside. Why do they have like the whiteboard of passive aggressiveness? Hey, sorry, I have horrible heat intolerance. I almost passed out last night. Is it okay if we keep the AC on at least at night? Only if it's not set lower than the temp outside. Anything lower than 70 is way too cold. Okay, if you're setting the AC below 70, I feel like you got some issues. There's either a lot of air leaking or that's pretty damn cold, all right? If you're dying of heat intolerance at 70 in the house, unless your house is fucked up or something, I'm sorry, I have heat exhaustion so bad I'm unable to eat. I can't afford an urgent care trip if I pass out. Well, if you pass out, you're not gonna have to go anywhere. 70 what? I don't know, it's like 23 in loser units. 21 in loser units. I have heat exhaustion so bad I'm unable to eat. I can't afford an urgent care trip if I pass out. Downstairs is admittedly a bit cold, but if the sun hits my room half the day, making it 10 plus degrees hotter most of the day, I'm not sure. Why not? We'll get some fucking curtains. What? Can we please keep the broom somewhere? It isn't right next to my food. It stresses me out. Cleaning, thanks to sorry for you. Try using them. What is it saying? Cleaning utensils too scary for you? Is that what that is? Try using them. Congrats on your worst take ever. Perfect sleeping temp is 68F or lower. If you sleep at 70 or higher, you're unhinged in bed. I don't care what you think the perfect temp is. I'm telling you that if you are dying in a house because you think it's too hot set at 70 degrees, you have something mentally wrong with you. Just don't burden other people with your existence. Go to the forest, live alone, or find a bunch of mentally unhealthy people to live with you and go cosplay as FF7 people and make a blog post about it, okay? What is this supposed to be a picture of? Or okay. You are not welcome here. What the fuck is happening? What is going on here? Get out. I'm siding with the guy writing the aggressive notes back. Whoever has the heat intolerance, this guy's cringe. I hope. All right. I, 20, moved in about 10 months ago. And at the beginning, my roommate, 45, was extremely nice. I thought I'd won the lottery. She had explained when I moved in that she has celiac disease, so she's allergic to wheat and soy, and showed me which silverware dishes were communal and which were specifically hers. I told her no worries. I try to be as mindful when cooking and cleaning in the kitchen as I can. I got an e-bike a little after moving in so I could get to and from work without sinking money into Uber because I couldn't afford a car. I came home one day and she had, of her own accord, cleared a spot in the living room for me to put it, since before I was trying to park it as out of the way as I can. I thanked her and apologized that it's pretty intrusive, saying I would keep it outside, but I'm scared of it being stolen, especially since our neighborhood is student housing. Along with the fact that the weather here is pretty brutal, and I don't think it would survive being snowed and rained on. She said no worries, and that the spot she cleared is out of the way enough, it isn't a bother. However, after about 6 months, she, with no communication or warning me, completely freaked out about the dishes and how I was poisoning all of her kitchenware. She ended up locking literally everything up in big boxes that she then kept in the living room. Again, whatever, weird. I wish she had just told me not to use the communal stuff, but I understand she has an allergy. I just shrugged it off and got my own dishes. She has not stopped escalating this behavior since. She claims that I'm purposefully poisoning and trying to trick her, and that I apparently leave the kitchen a complete mess with crumbs everywhere every day. I like to think I'm a pretty clean person, maybe not perfect. I eat mostly microwave meals, wipe the counter, blah, blah, blah. In the past month or so, she decided to focus on the air conditioning because I asked to have it a little lower since it's been in the 90s and my room gets blasted by the sun half the day. I got blackout curtains and they barely help. So it's like 5 to 10 degrees hotter than the downstairs. She responded by saying she doesn't care and doesn't want the AC lower than what it is outside. I tried to tell her it's so hot my cat is showing signs of heat exhaustion and to please have it be a little lower so my room has a chance to cool down. She again didn't care at all, saying I pay for half the electrical so I don't want it on. As if I don't also pay for half of it. She's also been freaking out if I leave an empty soda box by the garbage can. It's completely out of the way. Oh, I wonder if the lady is going crazy, actually. I don't know. She might be insane. Lately, she's been writing things like get out and you're not welcome here on the side of the fridge and the cabinets, as well as turning the heat on when it's still regularly in the 80s or 90s outside. She's also been putting soap and wax on the kitchen chairs. I can only assume in the hopes that I sit down and ruin a pair of pants. What the fuck? Bro, she's on her schizo grind. She's also throwing my waffle maker on the counter and broke it and put wax on my shoes. So she's damaging my belongings. She's also suddenly decided like 2 weeks ago out of the blue that she hates my bike and that vehicles belong outside. And it has been randomly moving it downstairs and frequently ripping the charger for it out of the wall while doing so. I try to explain it. Anytime I try to communicate with her, literally she starts screaming. Like top of her lungs yelling. I've actually reported a bunch of this to my leasing office and it's gotten to the point she's breaking my things and yelling at me and I feel properly unsafe rather than just her being kind of passive aggressive. Yesterday she moved an empty box again and I admittedly extremely frustrated but trying to be civil told her to please stop moving them. She instantly exploded at me and yelled, well, it's not that hard to take it to the dumpster. I tried to remind her that the office themselves said it was unnecessary. She responded to the office. Jesus. Damn. I wonder what's going on. So either the girl here is lying about everything in her post, or she's living with a schizo Chad. I mean, who communicates like this? I mean, if she's literally screaming at her, then fuck it. Then use the whiteboard. No? What's the streamer?
On go! 3, 2, 1, go! Bye-bye! What? No, you didn't! No, you didn't! I swear to God, I just put my head through. Wait, don't hurt him. Are you good?
Rip.
Wig's trying to match it.
Based. Based. True. So cringe. Can't wait for Trump to be truthing out something 2 weeks from now, unhinged. I can't believe Putin's still attacking, bruh.
You, Mr. President, have been a beacon of democracy. You are a beacon not just by what you have done, but by who you are. by the example of your humility, your deep connection with the lives and hopes of hardworking people, and, if you excuse that old-fashioned word, by your decency. Decency is maybe...
Come on, we don't think that Trump, the nickname guy, he's not decent?
Happened back there. It was just very unusual.
I don't understand that country. Every time I see them in the news, and maybe it's just like bad news. It's them being neutered further, and or just replaced. They're being neutered and replaced in the UK, is what it seems like. They're just allowing millions of people to immigrate to their country.
Not a knife wielders.
I thought they literally Brexited to stop the immigration. Are you saying that that was all a fucking lie? That the same two brain cell dipshits that advocated so hard for the Brexiting stuff, that was supposed to fix all the fucking problems? Just be aware, please, that any low IQ American or low IQ bonger, okay, because any of these people who bitch and cry about these immigration problems collectively have a fucking lower average IQ than the fucking median in Sudan or Ethiopia or any of these other places where the people are starving to death and don't even have enough fucking food to fuel their brains, right? You don't get to complain about any of this shit because you said that Brexit was going to fix all of it. Because if Brexit didn't fix anything, then you literally suicided the entire United Kingdom's economy for nothing. Because apparently it didn't fucking help with anything. Because I thought that the immigration issue was supposed to be fixed completely, even though they weren't part of the free trade movement area. I thought that all the healthcare shit was supposed to be so much money. That Nigel was fucking rolling around in his little pedo bus with the savings plastered on the fucking side. I thought your trade policies were supposed to be great. Oh, Trump hasn't done anything with the UK, even though supposedly they were like his greatest fucking friend through the whole Brexit era, because MAGA and Brexit were so like this with each other, right? I'm sorry, but you don't get to complain about anything anymore. You just have to shut the fuck up and suck some Trump cock because you have no suggestions or solutions for anything. Because I guarantee you, I can't guarantee you, but probably both these motherfuckers were massively on the pro-Brexit side. And now, 10 years later, when everybody said it wouldn't fix anything, now you're like, oh shit, guys, I think it didn't fix anything. Yeah, no fucking shit, Sherlock. But why would you think that you can talk about any of it now? Oh, sorry. Whatever. Okay.
The knife wielders in the mix, turns out.
Well, not anymore. Got those knives out of their hands.
It's part of their culture. They're training with the art of the steel and the blade.
Ridiculous.
I think it's the locals. I know it's the locals. They've been doing knife shit, those British gangs. Somehow they don't seem intimidating to me, although I'm sure they'd kill me.
Don't we have more even knife violence in the United States? I think that
Alex guy was a local. Stabbed 10 people at a children's dance recital.
I need a picture of this Alex guy.
How local is he? Is he white? Is he white like me? Is he white?
Axel guy, because his last name is Ruta Cubana. So I'm just wondering if Ruta Cubana was.
He doesn't look like a local. I might be wrong.
Yeah, you're totally wrong. His name is Ruta Cubana. He's from.
I bet he was screaming Allahu Akbar while he stabbed the children.
It said he was British in every article.
Yeah, but that's like how they write that to make you think it's not like a very.
To make you think they're not black. Ooh, I see we got all the old. These are 10-year-old neo-Nazi Richard Spencer talking points out here. Okay.
Easily identifiable problem.
Oh yeah, it's like there was that kid in Britain who killed some people. Like maybe he murdered some girls or something. And when they made the Netflix documentary, they made him a cute little white boy.
Base.
Oh, there he is.
That guy says, "I done it and I'll do it again." That's a stabber's grimace.
Jesus, he looks like he's a member of the Kazan Ogla.
I don't know what that is. Is it a group of stabbers?
Yeah, the people who know, that's all that matters.
Okay.
But for real, he's got Kazan Ogla hair, if you're listening.
Yeah.
No, he was born in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, but born in England, but like, is he white?
So he's I don't.
But he might be black.
What more you need than to be born there? Like generations back to be a local?
You might want to talk to Donald Trump about that one. He could straighten you out on that little inaccuracy.
Kyle, this is the kind of guy that
he's joking, but I guarantee you both these guys support the birthright citizenship appeal.
Was fighting the French.
You wouldn't say this if he was white. This is 1,000% because the guy's black.
Yes,
he was
that's
born
exactly
in
why I'm
Cardiff,
saying
Wales.
it. Because he's
probably
black
sounds
and he
like
has.
He's from Wales.
I'm saying it because his name is Ruta Cabana and he murdered children with a knife in the street.
He went to the Taylor Swift festival. Such a gentle, fun place.
And in his mugshot, he looks like the devil. like that's why I'm saying it. He could be green. It's not that. It's all the other things. I couldn't care less about his skin tone. It's all the other things. The skin tone just happens to be a commonality with those things most of the time.
Base.
Anyway.
Jesus Christ.
I think, and I think that Gavin Newsom.
Holy shit. DC being a state should be pushed for. I wonder if you could use this. I wonder if you could use this recent federalization of the police force there as a push to make it a state, so we can protect them from improper usage of the president's powers in the future. They need to be a state to protect themselves. I wonder if you could do that. Okay. Stay bored. I'm reading this. In defense of the amyloid hypothesis, this is a guest post by David Schneider Joseph. The amyloid hypothesis says that Alzheimer's is caused by accumulation of the peptide amyloid beta. It's the leading model in academia, but a favorite target for science journalists, contrarian bloggers, and neuroscience public intellectuals who point out problems like some of the research establishing amyloid's role turned out to be fraudulent. The level of amyloid in the brain doesn't correlate very well with the level of cognitive impairment across Alzheimer's patients. Oh, shit. Wait, is it? I'm sorry. That would be pretty funny if this was true. Wait.
I think one of the bonuses that some see from leaving maybe is that they have more control over their immigration policies and their economy. But I think that they also are going to have to pay more from goods from the EU countries now. So I don't know how that's going to affect their economy in the long run. But, you know, the idea of not being a part of not having other people decide things for you just feels right. It just feels like a little bit of liberty. I think
it does, doesn't it?
When you hear that, oh, yeah, there's a big group that we're a part of over there, and they decided this, so we got to do that over here now. You kind of feel a little bit trampled on, a little weighed down by people who aren't representative of you necessarily.
And knowing that group can dictate policies and things to your leaders that you chose, and that your leaders aren't able to do things that they would obviously promise in campaigns because it would, you know, counteract the wishes of the EU or whatever. Like, obviously, I've said it, very simple understanding, but if the UK is so fucking successful and basically buoying the EU at, like...
What? I don't even know if it was that deranged back then. Is this just American takes on Brexit? Was that ever the thought?
What is their incentive to stay in it? Like, how does it help them? You know, or is like, I don't know.
I don't know. Again, I have a very cursory understanding of it too. When it first started, and I was kind of young, so I didn't have. I feel like you can understand politics, but unless you've understood politics for 10 years, you don't have the context.
Oh, maybe because one of the talking points I think was that like the UK was a net. Oh no. That's the tie into that Farage talking point. I think the idea was supposed to be that the UK was like a net payer of. Is it taxes to the EU or something? Or some payments outflow to the EU or whatever. And that's why if they Brexited, they'd be able to save all that money and go right at the NHS. I think that was maybe that's what this is a reference to. But still, I mean, like, the thing I always say is that you're always going to be held captive to other countries to some extent, right? Sure, you can Brexit, but you're still going to have to make deals with those countries, and those deals are still going to some extent, dictate, you know, what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, you know? Okay, back to this. The level of amyloid in the brain doesn't correlate very well to the level. Okay, several strains of mice that were genetically programmed to have extra amyloid did eventually develop cognitive impairments, but it took much higher amyloid levels than humans have, and on further investigation, the impairments didn't really look like Alzheimer's. Some infectious agents, like the gingivitis bacterium and the herpes viruses, seem to play a role in at least some Alzheimer's cases. And amyloid is one of the body's responses to injury or infection, so it might be a harmless byproduct of these infections or whatever else the real disease is. Anti-amyloid drugs, like Aduhelm, don't reverse the disease and only slow progression a relatively small amount. Opponents call the amyloid hypothesis zombie science, propped up only by pharmaceutical companies hoping to sell off a few more anti-amyloid Me Too drugs before it collapses. Meanwhile, mainstream scientists continue to believe it without really offering any public defense. Scott was so surprised by the size of the gap between official and unofficial opinion that he asked if someone from the orthodox camp would speak out in his favor. I am David Schneider-Joseph, an engineer. Oh, sorry. Okay, it's okay. An engineer formerly with SpaceX and Google, now working in AI safety. Alzheimer's isn't my field, but I got very interested in it, spent 6 months studying the literature, and came away believing the amyloid hypothesis was basically completely solid. I thought I'd share the understanding with current skeptics. The ATN model. The most plausible variant of the amyloid hypothesis is ATN model. Amyloid causes tau, causes neurodegeneration. Amyloid, the common entry point, typically at least 15 years before clinically detectable symptoms, is accumulation of amyloid B deposits, especially amyloid B42, one of several variants. Amyloid beta is a peptide produced in healthy human beings and many other animals, probably for antimicrobial purposes. Factors which cause overproduction of amyloid also cause Alzheimer's. Factors that cause decreased clearance of amyloid also cause Alzheimer's. The clearest relationship is various genes which massively increase amyloid production while doing nothing else. These genes are Alzheimer's risk factors, with some of the rare and more severe ones causing extreme versions of the disease that manifest at otherwise almost never seen ages. One of the clearest examples is Down syndrome, which is caused by 3 rather than the usual 2 copies of chromosome 21. People with Down syndrome are at much higher risk of Alzheimer's than the general population. 2/3 will have the condition by age 60 and 15% have it by age 40. APP, the gene for the amyloid precursor protein, is on chromosome 21. This means that people with Down syndrome will have an extra copy. This extra copy has been observed to lead to higher than normal amyloid levels, but there are many genes on chromosome 21. Do we have additional evidence that it's the amyloid one that's involved? Yes. Dozens of other mutations on APP cause the same sort of extremely young and severe Alzheimer's. Study mutations on PSEN1 and 2, the genes for the enzyme that processes amyloid precursor protein into amyloid. Study mutations on several other amyloid-related genes. Researchers call these autosomal dominant Alzheimer's, meaning Alzheimer's cases that get inherited from a single parent in a simple fashion typical of single gene disorders. They make up about 1% of all cases and are our strongest evidence for the causal role of amyloid in the disorder. To my knowledge, there is no serious claim that these genes could be working through any pathway other than their shared role in the amyloid system. But these autosomal dominant cases only make up about 1% of all Alzheimer's patients. Might they be a different disease than the usual sporadic Alzheimer's that strikes people without strong family histories at normal ages? ? Probably not. The presentation and trajectory of autosomal dominant and sporadic Alzheimer's cases are strikingly similar. Both show an initial appearance of amyloid pathology, starting in intrinsic connectivity networks in both autosomal dominant and sporadic types. Cortical tau appearing first in the medial temporal lobe, and with the exact same fold in both disease types, despite human tauopathies having at least 7 other possible characteristic folds. That tau pathology worsening and spreading outside the region only once amyloid pathology reaches sufficient severity, neurodegeneration progressing closely in step with the tau pathology, and the same usual approximate trajectory of cognitive symptoms due to the sequence of affected regions. So it's as if 2 bank robberies occurred hours apart in the same town and in a highly similar and idiosyncratic manner, and we can positively identify the culprit of one on security camera footage. It's a good bet the culprit of the other is the same. Increased amyloid production. Alzheimer's is an especially clear and simple pathway, but any other change in amyloid can also cause the disease. For example, overproduction or reduced clearance of amyloid due to impaired slow-wave sleep. Amyloid beta production is neuronal activity dependent, and toxins, perhaps including amyloid beta, are cleared from the brain during sleep via the glymphatic system. Thus, amyloid beta can accumulate if the brain is more active and or has less opportunity for clearance. Impaired amyloid clearance due to having 1 or, much worse, 2 copies of ApoE4, which is by far the most common genetic risk factor. The mechanism here may be a loss of function in microglia, a type of immune cell in the brain which helps clear plaques, and overproduction or reduced clearance due to microbial infection. Amyloid beta appears to be an antimicrobial peptide and will form plaques in response to infection. This explains various observations that have been used to support the infectious hypothesis, sometimes proposed as an alternative to the amyloid hypothesis. However, it can only explain a subset of cases, and as I argue below, as I argue below, is even then still mediated by amyloid via an IATN pathway, infection, amyloid, tau, neurodegeneration. In cases of increased production, cerebral spinal fluid will show elevated amyloid. In cases of reduced clearance, amyloid will decrease in CSF. In all cases, however, PET scans will show elevated brain amyloid, usually at first mainly in intrinsic connectivity networks, such as the default mode network, which experience brain activity even at rest. These neurons are the most active, which causes more production and possibly less opportunity for clearance, so they tend to be the first to suffer from a production/clearance imbalance. Over time, amyloid pathology spreads spatially throughout the brain. Aggregations of amyloid peptides induce more such aggregations. Some of our clearest evidence for this comes from growth hormone deficiency patients who used to have cadaver-derived ground-up brain matter injected into their own brains to provide the missing hormones. Ew. If the ground-up brain matter was sourced from the corpse of an Alzheimer's patient, the growth hormone deficiency patients would themselves develop Alzheimer's at a young age, probably through prion-like spread of the misfolded proteins. After about 15 years of preclinical spread, the pathology eventually covers the whole brain. While some subtle cognitive impairment may occur during this time, it is usually not severe enough to be clinically detectable from amyloid alone. Indeed, in both humans and mice, the severity of neurodegeneration and cognitive deficits is not a good spatiotemporal match for the severity of amyloid pathology. Rather, it is a good match for the severity of tau pathology. See next section for more. These facts are often suggested as evidence against the amyloid hypothesis. However, amyloid is causally upstream of tau, as I will argue below. Therefore, the existence of cognitively normal individuals with amyloid pathology is expected in the ATN model, but typically only for a few decades before progression to the next stage. Tau pathology and neurodegeneration. Tauopathies are a range of prion-like diseases involving the tau protein, whose usual function is to assist in stabilizing microtubule structure. In a tauopathy, the tau protein misfolds and induces other nearby tau proteins to misfold into the same shape. Injecting nothing but misfolded tau fibrils into a mouse brain can recruit the endogenously produced mouse tau into this pathology, which spreads far beyond the injection site, causing neurodegeneration wherever it goes. There are at least 8 distinct ways the tau protein can misfold in human disease, and over a dozen distinct human tauopathies, each involving a specific one of these misfoldings. These include chronic traumatic encephalopathy, Pick's disease, corticobasal degeneration, progressive supranuclear palsy, and Alzheimer's disease, with the last by far the most common. Each of these 5 diseases has its own distinct tau fold. Most normal human beings eventually develop some tau pathology in adulthood, originating probably in the locus coeruleus, which is part of the brainstem. By middle age, some amount is usually spread to the hippocampus and entorhinal cortex in the medial temporal lobe, regions responsible for episodic memory. This is called primary age-related tauopathy and has its own tau fold, which is distinct from most tauopathies, but the same as Alzheimer's. Usually its local severity is mild and it doesn't spread much beyond those regions, but with sufficient amyloid pathology, this normal tau pathology tends to both locally worsen and spread throughout the rest of the brain, becoming the tau pathology of Alzheimer's. Some genetic risk factors, such as ApoE, in addition to affecting the clearance of amyloid beta, also increase the brain's susceptibility to this amyloid to tau pathology conversion. But this is a matter of degree, as sufficient amyloid pathology seems to virtually guarantee the transition. Every 10 centiloid increase in amyloid pathology for a cognitively normal individual increases by 2.7 times the probability of a PET scan detecting pathological levels of tau within 5 years. The only known cases where patients with extremely high amyloid levels can go significant amounts of time without developing tau pathology are a few individuals with extremely rare protective genes, known only from a few case studies. Even in these instances, the individuals will eventually succumb to the tau phase, suffering neural atrophy and dementia. After it forms, the tau pathology no longer appears to require amyloid's assistance to keep spreading, although amyloid may still accelerate it. This probably explains why existing anti-amyloid therapies have been only about 30% effective in test patients who are usually late in the amyloid to tau progression, even if early in having symptomatic disease. Ceruleus? That's what somebody said. Okay. Wait, what is this? Cringe. Neurodegeneration follows tau pathology extremely closely in time and space, in humans as well as basically all animal models, and cognitive impairments match the functions of the affected regions. There are rare reports of advanced tau pathology without cognitive decline, often in people with protective ApoE2 alleles, but even then, systematic analysis finds that actual density of tau inclusions is highly predictive of cognitive impairment, and that these exceptional cases usually involve widespread but locally sparse pathology. The regional distribution of tau pathology explains why the first symptom of Alzheimer's is typically impaired memory. The first cortical sites affected are usually in regions involved in memory formation. As the pathology spreads, further regions are affected until eventually all cognitive functions are affected. As with most other aspects of the disease, the high-level picture seems relatively clear, but the exact cellular and molecular pathways are not well understood, although may involve an assist from the innate immune systems, especially microglia and astrocytes. Okay. Early Alzheimer mouse models were amyloid only, with extremely heavy overproduction of amyloid beta, much more than required to recapitulate the human disease, and apparently enough to cause detectable cognitive dysfunction. However, normal mice do not get age-related tauopathy, so an amyloid-only mouse model, while useful for investigating certain questions, is not a full Alzheimer's disease model. Combined amyloid plus tau pathology mouse models, which are transgenically modified and or injected with misfolded human tau fibrils, display the property that the presence of amyloid pathology induces the worsening and spreading of tau pathology. This is also observed in vitro in human cells. How do we know the amyloid causes the tau? Researchers have measured the correlation in many ways. From the spatiotemporal timeline, tau pathology only begins locally worsening and spreading outside the medial temporal lobe once amyloid reaches sufficient severity, to causal mediation modeling in the human disease, to causal intervention using in vitro human cell studies and animal models, but also giving people drugs that reduce amyloid levels also decreases tau pathology. I've left out or merely alluded to much other complexity involving the innate immune system, lipid processing, and detailed molecular and cellular mechanisms, preferring to focus on the parts of the story which are crucial to deciding the causal role of amyloid, for which I am aware of a satisfactory account from the literature, but I don't intend to leave the impression that the above is all there is to Alzheimer's disease, or that all cases progress in the exact same way. The mechanistic claims. Wait, let me just see how long this is. Okay. I make the following two claims about amyloid beta's role in Alzheimer's disease. Amyloid deposits are a necessary, i.e. but for, cause in all instances of Alzheimer's dementia. That is, if someone has PET or CSF positivity for amyloid and tau pathologies, and the tau pathology involves the Alzheimer tau fold and made its first cortical appearance in the medial temporal lobe, and then they developed medial temporal volume loss plus amnestic, mild cognitive impairment, plus later dementia. Then counterfactually, early enough, probably about 15 years before clinical presentation, causal intervention solely to remove the amyloid deposits would have prevented almost all tau pathology and symptoms. And then 2, severe enough amyloid pathology is a sufficient cause of Alzheimer dementia in almost all brains. That is, if someone is PET or CSF positive For very severe amyloid pathology, such as the level resulting from typical cases of autosomal dominant overproduction, lack extremely rare protective genetics preventing further disease progression, and is not treated with any recent medical interventions, then they will eventually, after typically 15 to 20 years, and rarely more than 30, develop tau pathology and neurodegeneration in the region of this tau pathology. Unless some other disease kills them first, usually this will start in the medial temporal lobe and affect memory, then spread to other regions and functions. Mechanistic claims I am not making. I am not claiming that environmental factors such as microbial infection can never be a cause of Alzheimer's disease. However, I claim that in all such cases, they act upstream of the above described disease process, inducing the formation of amyloid deposits leading to disease. Furthermore, these cannot be all cases. There are instances of the disease in which amyloid deposits arise essentially entirely due to genetic factors, like the autosomal dominant cases of overproduction. And two, I am not claiming the disease is as simple as amyloid deposits directly inducing neurodegeneration. As described above, they act indirectly via the eventual downstream tau pathology and possibly an associated microglial/astrocytic inflammatory response. Therefore, there are many people in the preclinical amyloid-only disease phase who will eventually progress to dementia but have not yet. These two clarifications imply that even though amyloid pathology is a necessary and in enough severity sufficient cause of the disease under normal circumstances, therapies with other targets might still be effective, either intervening upstream such that amyloid deposits never occur, or downstream so as to prevent the neurodegenerative process. The testable prediction. I would bet on the following. A therapy whose sole intended mechanism involves amyloid production or clearance in a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial will, in the next 12 years, achieve a slowdown of cognitive decline of at least 75% with a p-value below 0.001 in its pre-registered primary cognitive endpoint, or an average of all such endpoints if more than one exists. I'd eventually expect better than 75% efficacy, but getting stuff to work takes time. I don't want to make a prediction, which can be tested in a reasonable time frame. On the other hand, if a clinical trial completes earlier than 12 years from now, perhaps reading out in 2027, sustains extremely good amyloid clearance at the preclinical stage and has a good safety profile, but doesn't make substantial progress towards the 75% goal, then I'd consider this prediction refuted in advance. So if they clear all the amyloid shit and then but it doesn't help the disease. Okay. For targeting amyloid, I'm most optimistic about a blood-brain barrier penetrating antibody such as trontinemab, but with other epitope, more like lecanemabs, I don't know. And given in the preclinical disease stage, other options for targeting amyloid include antisense oligonucleotides for APP, as well as, which character is this? The Y one? Secretase modulators? Gamma? Oh, gamma. Gamma secretase modulators. The successes and failures of amyloid antibodies. Hold on, I'm curious what somebody emailed me about a drug trial related to this a long time ago. Hold on. Oh, this guy emailed me about this drug. Donanemi, I can't pronounce this. MAB, it's another MAB one. DONANE, Donane-mab, whatever the fuck that is. Okay. The successes and failures of amyloid antibodies. There have now been 3 amyloid antibodies with positive phase 3. Oh, hey, there's the one. With positive phase 3 and earlier clinical trials on cognitive endpoints, but with much less than 75% efficacy. Aducanumab in phase 1b, 19% on average across cognitive endpoints for the highest 2 doses. 2 phase 3 trials, 22%, but negative 2% in the other trial. 30%, okay, then this one. And then the Donald. There have also been earlier antibodies that saw only failure in phase 3. Is MAB, does that always mean it's an antibody or whatever? These failed drugs didn't just do a bad job treating Alzheimer's, they also did a bad job clearing amyloid plaques, so their failure is consistent with the amyloid hypothesis. MAB is monoclonal antibody. Gotcha. Wait, how do you... if you inject somebody with monoclonal antibodies, how do you make their body make more? Will they keep making them, or? You can't. Oh, so you have to keep injecting them, basically? Okay, that said, just coupling the older, previously unsuccessful antibody, blah, 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 gantenerumab, with a BBB crossing mechanism produces extremely good target engagement and better safety in early clinical trials. This makes me optimistic about a future BBB crossing lecanemab, especially if given in the preclinical disease phase prior to significant tauopathy. Each of the successes have shown about 25 to 30% slowing of decline over 18 months. Some object that this isn't clinically meaningful, or some object that this isn't clinically meaningful because it's only a slowdown of about 5 points, or 0.5 points on an 18-point CDR-SB scale. But they don't mention that the participants start about 3 points from a perfect score, since these are relatively early stage patients, and worsen by 1.5 points in those 18 months when on placebo. A literally perfect drug, one which halted all future clinical progression, could therefore only achieve about 1.5 points of efficacy on that scale. The cruxy question is whether the drugs maintain a 30% reduction after 18 months. Preliminary signs from those 2 monoclonal antibodies, open label extensions show that they do, so this would amount to about 40% more years of life at each disease stage. But why have amyloid antibodies only achieved about 30% efficacy so far? The likely answer mainly because they were given too late to prevent the downstream tau pathology cascade, but also because some of their side effects, like when they target amyloid-bearing blood vessels rather than brain tissue, can themselves worsen cognition. That said, even achieving 30% efficacy proves that amyloid plays some causal disease role and isn't merely a downstream harmless pathology. Oh, that's interesting. So that guy that, I had a guy that sent me a big email a long time ago, 2 years ago, because I had said a few years ago that there weren't any treatments for Alzheimer's disease that were actually slowing down the progression of the disease, but there are in trial, and there was one that I think that just, I don't remember if it's got approved or not yet, and I think he's talking about the same drug actually, maybe. But it's funny because his thing was also similar to what this guy's saying, and that the hard part is that, I mean, how do you give a drug to somebody who's preclinical for Alzheimer's disease? Like, I don't know if there's any way to detect that right now. Unless you're doing, like, I don't know, random lumbar punctures maybe to check the amyloid beta levels in your cerebral spinal fluid. Oof. There's an expensive PET scan that can detect amyloid, but no one uses it for screening. Oh, how much does that cost? When you say expensive, what does that mean? Oh, the drug this guy was talking about, the second FDA-approved drug is Leqembi. Is that supposed to be a monoclonal antibody or something different, or? It's MAB. Well, yeah, but this one is spelled Leqembi, but that might be like maybe the brand name or something and not the chemical thing or whatever. It's about $3,000 for one of those. Jesus. Okay. That's the brand name. Gotcha. All right. Why is the amyloid hypothesis unpopular? The amyloid hypothesis remains popular in the Alzheimer's disease research community, but most press coverage is negative. These challenges are understandable, and some of them make good points, but overall fail to address the evidence discussed above. I discussed this above, but to recap, early attempts had suboptimal epitopes, which didn't successfully engage their targets. What does this mean? Hold on. Are specific regions on an antigen that are recognized by the immune system, particularly by antibodies or T cell receptors. Okay. How do you pronounce this?
Logical determinants, i.e. epitopes on that.
Epitopes.
SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. When you then got this, and you added in the same vial, this Omicron strain. The Omicron strain does share epitopes or immunologically distinct regions with that original strain. So you were already primed to recognize those. So those were the ones you recognized. That's the imprinting. And that's why you couldn't really see above it. So we ultimately...
Okay. Later attempts did engage their target, but have mostly been tested about 15 years after the disease started. And so after downstream tau pathologies had already started, these later attempts demonstrated about a 30% slowdown in clinical progression, which proves at least some causal role for amyloid. Some claim this isn't clinically meaningful, but they use misleading arguments, like saying it's a 0.5 point benefit on an 18-point scale, when even a perfect drug, which halted all clinical progression, would only have achieved 1.5 minute versus placebo. In all mature antibodies so far, they have been attended with not great side effects, brain swelling and bleeding, for reasons related to their difficulty crossing the blood-brain barrier into brain tissue where they're actually needed. A new generation of antibodies will cross the blood-brain barrier, improving efficacy and safety. Why can't they just inject it right into your brain? Right into the brain! It's frustrating that getting even to a 30% slowdown has taken as long as it has, but all of this is consistent with the model of the disease I laid out, which has strong evidence behind it. And there's every reason to expect that a new drug, A, with an optimal epitope, that's what he said, right? Similar to lecanemab and donanemab, given in the early preclinical phase, 10 plus years earlier than currently, and C, with a shuttle mechanism across the blood-brain barrier, could be very successful. The mature antibodies only have A. There are ongoing trials combining A plus B and a shortly upcoming trial combining B plus C, but not yet all three together. I'm optimistic about these, but expect A plus B plus C to do especially well. Okay. Yusuf, why the fuck are you linking this shit? Do you think he'll ever speak with the Sunpiker again? Probably not. I don't think he'll retire. He'll retire first. Would not be good for him. Challenges translating from mouse models. The researchers who developed the early Alzheimer mouse models wanted the clearest possible window into disease progression, so they turned up an amyloid gene to extreme levels, far beyond those of even severe human cases. This level of amyloid was so massive that it caused cognitive deficits directly, e.g. without any contribution from tau, and in fact, mouse proteins work differently than from human proteins, and mice do not naturally get tauopathies. So researchers increased amyloid, got cognitive deficits, and thought they were simulating Alzheimer's, but they were actually doing something significantly different. Human patients increased amyloid, tau, neurodegeneration, disease. Mouse models massively increased amyloid, neurodegeneration, and disease. Then, since the mouse models didn't really have Alzheimer's the way it works in humans, most of the findings from the mouse models failed to translate into human Alzheimer's patients. Since the findings from the amyloid mice did such a bad job matching human Alzheimer's cases, some people concluded that amyloid did not cause Alzheimer's. There are now tauopathy mouse models, and those models, worsening amyloid pathology, tends to cause the tau pathology to worsen as well. I predict that findings from these mice are more likely to translate to human disease. Wow, cute. Okay. Okay. Fraud in amyloid research. There was some really bad fraud, such as documented in this study, which is the case that received the most attention. Oh, this is why that one researcher emailed me. I think I've still repeated this, and I shouldn't. I think I've said on stream multiple times the amyloid beta hypothesis was shown that the base paper for it had a lot of fraud involved, and now people were revisiting it. But I don't think that it was about the amyloid beta hypothesis. It was about a particular, like, amyloid beta peptide, 56, but it wasn't like for the entire amyloid beta hypothesis. For another good overview of fraud in Alzheimer's research, not at all relating to amyloid beta, C124, the perpetrator should be institutionally severely punished. This fraud has sometimes been framed by amyloid hypothesis critics as impacting very foundational work for the amyloid hypothesis, but this mostly isn't true. It concerns some specific variants of amyloid beta that are not prominent in nearly any of the literature I've encountered. When it was uncovered, I checked how many of the hundreds of papers in my notes seemed to be affected, and very few were. For example, the main findings I've relied upon in this argument have, to the best of my understanding, survived unscathed. Wait, the guy who emailed me isn't the writer of this article, is it? The guy who emailed me, well, I don't want to say his name. It's not the same. Because the guy who emailed me said the exact same thing. He said, the recent infamous paper, which was shown to have falsified results, was not critical to the amyloid beta hypothesis. It made worldwide headlines because the gossip was too juicy, but honestly, I've spent years studying Alzheimer's disease, and I've never heard of this amyloid beta 56 hypothesis, which was discredited. He said that was cute, I guess. The smoking gun genetic evidence for amyloid's causal role in the autosomal dominant versions of the disease, and the extensive similarities between the autosomal dominant disease and sporadic disease, the evidence that amyloid beta can potentiate or accelerate tau pathology, which itself is proximate to neurodegeneration, from studies in animal models, studies in human cells, and spatiotemporal disease course, causal mediation, modeling of that disease course, and the tau biomarker effects from amyloid therapies. And the amyloid mafia, there is a perception that a combination of nefarious and misguided behaviors has led to it being impossible to pursue alternative hypotheses or therapies, with the whole field pursuing a dead end. I don't have numbers for the more basic research, but we do have good data on the therapeutics being explored. In 2020, only 35% of hopefully disease-modifying phase 3 trials and 20% of hopefully disease-modifying phase 2 trials targeted amyloid. 65 to 80% targeted other pathways. The breakdown for other years is similar. I support this in part because it's always good to test alternative possibilities, but in part because I expect that some of them can succeed even if the ATN model is right. And the compellingness of alternative hypotheses. A primary competitor of the amyloid hypothesis is the tau hypothesis. This naturally claims that the tau protein is the fundamental cause of Alzheimer's, which makes good sense. The location and severity of tau pathology correlates better with the location and severity of neurodegeneration than does amyloid beta in both humans and combined amyloid tau mouse models. However, this exactly is predicted by the ATN model of the disease. Amyloid pathology builds for about 15 to 20 years, eventually inducing tau pathology. Then the tau pathology causes neurodegeneration. Why not skip the amyloid step? Because as discussed above, we have extensive genetic and clinical evidence that the amyloid is the trigger for tau to spread in the first place. Of course, this doesn't mean tau is a bad target for therapy. I'm optimistic about tau. Antisense oligonucleotides, such as B-buado, which had a very promising phase 1b trial and is now in phase 2. Another competitor is the microbial infection hypothesis. Again, there is good evidence. This is true in some cases. Multiple pathogens, such as the periodontitis bacteria, gingivalis, and various herpes viruses are correlated with the disease, which has tempted some microbiologists to treat amyloid as merely a harmless correlate. Since amyloid is involved in the body's immune system, maybe in the process of causing brain damage, the microbes cause some amyloid deep deposits on the side. But again, these facts are also consistent with the ATN, or in this case, the IATN, the infection amyloid tau neurodegeneration hypothesis. Again, treating these microbes is still another promising target for treating or preventing Alzheimer's. These alternatives are a good reminder that the causal pathway can be hard to disentangle. But again, the strongest evidence for amyloid's causal role is genetics. Genes which increase amyloid increase Alzheimer's risk, and rare mutations that massively increase amyloid massively increase the risk of Alzheimer's, including unusually young or severe cases. Given this natural experiment, the most parsimonious explanation is that amyloid is intimately involved in Alzheimer's. And then the most parsimonious explanation for the role of infection and tau is that they are part of the same IATN pathway. The meta-psychological explanation, frustration at complexity and slow progress. Progress in biomedical research is slow. The disease and amyloid beta's prevalence in it was discovered in 1906. Damn. The amyloid causal hypothesis was first proposed in 1992. After discovery of the genetic evidence, the first amyloid antibody entered clinical trials in 2005, and now in 2025, the best we have is about 30% efficacy with potentially serious side effects. But biology is messy, and we need to have comfort with complexity. Yes, there's evidence that tau is responsible for neurodegeneration in Alzheimer's disease. No, this doesn't contradict the amyloid hypothesis. Yes, Biogen screwed up in conducting the aducanumab phase 3 trials, and this made the results harder to interpret. No, that doesn't mean amyloid therapies have completely failed. Yes, it's taken way too long to get even to this intermediate point of 30% efficacy due to a combination of overregulation and biology just being damn hard. No, that doesn't mean we're on the wrong track with the underlying science. Some years ago, I worked on the guidance and navigation software for the Falcon 9 first stage landing. The early attempts failed because of annoying issues like stuck propellant valves, running out of fin hydraulic fluid, and so on. It took many tries to iron out all of those issues. Meanwhile, fans and critics kept proposing that SpaceX's fundamental approach was flawed and suggesting entirely different approaches. Most of that criticism was pretty uninformed. This, of course, isn't a general refutation of outsiders criticizing any field, as sometimes such criticism is necessary and right, but it does illustrate the need for patience when specialists are attempting something hard and unprecedented. Curing Alzheimer's disease is much harder than landing a rocket. It's important to understand the reasons for therapeutic failures. In this case, failure to engage the target, and underwhelming successes, probably due to treatment late in the disease progression, plus the challenges in crossing the blood-brain barrier. To put that in the context of the scientific evidence from the basic research, which is very strong in this case, and to consider how compelling the alternative hypotheses are, not very. Frustrated people who don't have the time or capacity to study the science themselves often want someone to blame, and the amyloid mafia is a ready target. But there isn't as much of a mafia as they think. Biology is just hard. My bottom line remains that no alternative hypothesis offers a plausible accounting of the evidence for amyloid's causal role, whereas conversely, there is no evidence I'm aware of that the ATN model has great trouble accounting for. I am grateful to Stephen Destiny Bonnell II, Logan Thrasher Collins, Tommy Crow, Dan Alton, and Greg Fitzgerald for valuable feedback on this essay, and to Scott Alexander for edits, which improved its structure and presentation. Cute. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, and Daniel Solomon. Summary. Basically, if you play those... if you play the brain buster games every single day on your calculator, your brain will never, ever, ever have Alzheimer's disease. I guess this is just a defense of the, can we get Brett Weinstein's take now? Oh, I guarantee you he has one. Please let it be the The type 3, is it the type 3 diabetes one that everybody loves? This is basically saying, okay, so the explanation given for Alzheimer's disease is Destiny rock hard right now after getting a shout out. I was just kidding. That my name is not in this. Please stop. Jesus. Thank you for assuming that was true, though. I guess the hypothesis is that tau proteins, when they misfold, for whatever reason, I'm sure there's some molecular, biological, furin cleavage site complex explanation, but for whatever reason, when tau proteins misfold, these proteins tend to induce misfolding in nearby proteins. I think this is considered a prion disease, but basically when you get one of them in you, maybe not one, but like more will misfold, and then it just causes an accumulation of all these misfolded proteins. They just clog shit up and fuck your shit up. So tau protein misfolding is in the Alzheimer's disease type. The tau protein Alzheimer's disease misfold causes an accumulation of these proteins in the brain, which eventually leads to neurodegeneration. I don't know why, if it's because they like clog up your blood vessels and then it gets starved, or if it's because it creates a bad environment or does whatever shit. But for some reason, nobody seems to deny that accumulation of tau proteins that are misfolded in the most common way is this Alzheimer's disease causing way, causes shit to get fucked in the brain, starting in the temporal medial front, whatever the fuck. Is that the same thing? Is that where the hippocampus is? And then spreads out to the rest of the brain until you die. However, an increase in the amount of amyloid beta peptides in the brain, an increase in the amount of that, so whether that's because your body's producing too much or it's because your body's not clearing enough, will always inevitably facilitate the accumulation of misfolded tau proteins. So once you begin to accrue more and more amyloid beta plaque, eventually you will start to develop these misfolded tau proteins, and then as they accumulate, you will begin to experience neurodegeneration. We call that neurodegeneration, or the clinical symptoms accompanying it or resulting from it, Alzheimer's disease, until you die, basically. And then because there's been some issues related to some amyloid plaque research, people were doubting that and saying we just need to target the tau plaque thing, but like the tau thing is probably caused by the amyloid thing. There's not a good reason. How do you prevent it then? Well, the author of this guy here, and I guess our current medication, the theory is that if you can find a way to get rid of this amyloid plaque, this amyloid beta plaque, or this amyloid beta accumulation, then the tau shit won't happen, and then the neurodegeneration or the disease won't happen. But the current drugs, I believe, are trying to target the accumulation of the amyloid beta stuff. I don't 100% know how that's maybe to get your immune system to clear it away. I'm not sure, but yeah. I don't know how the drugs work themselves. Huh? But apparently they know what's causing it, but now the challenge is like you have to get a medication that can do a lot of things. Because keep in mind that like you're working in an environment where like a billion other things are always happening at the same point in time. It's not like you can just walk in and fix one thing. Like you have to walk in between 100 other workers who are doing 100 other things. But it's actually a million other workers doing a million other things and all sorts of other shit going on at the same time. And then when you step in, you can't fuck anything else up or do anything you're not supposed to. So they have to create a drug that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And then once it crosses the blood-brain barrier, it has to be able to address this amyloid beta plaque issue without causing other issues while crossing the blood-brain barrier, because some of those things were causing apparently brain bleeds or whatever else, and without fucking up anything in the rest of the body. And when it gets to the brain, it can't fuck up, like it's, yeah. Did I understand that we won't be able to treat it once it's far enough along? Well, so if you're using drugs that are targeting the amyloid beta accumulation, if the tau proteins have already begun to accumulate, then even if you get rid of all of the amyloid beta plaque, it will slow down the progression of disease, but you will still eventually succumb to Alzheimer's disease because those tau plaques, the misfolded tau proteins, will continue to accrue until you neurodegenerate and die. So ideally, this is a thing that you would do pre-clinically, meaning you would have to start this treatment before clinical symptoms manifest. I just don't know how they would figure that out. I'm sorry, tau are not plaques, they are fibrils. My bad. And then the treatment, somebody said is a prophylactic. Well, the issue is that the treatment for this, if these monoclonal antibodies are the thing, the treatment for this, I mean, maybe you could, I don't know. I'm not going to guess, actually. I was going to say maybe you can get the immune system to fight them and kill them at some point. But I mean, you need amyloid peptides for some things. It's not like you don't want to get rid of all of them, right? I think that's bad. Is it hard to target misfolded proteins, which is why it's a preventable thing? I don't know if we know how to clear out the misfolded tau fibrils. I don't know if that's possible. It might be that like these things, these like structures or something are like, once they begin to form, you like, it's just hard with like a medication or something. You have to go in and like surgically remove them, but you can't like cut open all the brain and clear everything out. It would just be impossible. How can you get your immune system to go kill them if there's a blood-brain barrier? I know almost nothing about the immune system, whatever we learned in high school. I believe that, I think your body has like a bunch of different types of immune systems. Like I think your brain has some immune system functioning, just not access to everything that your body has. So I don't remember what it does. I don't know what is different. I can't say what's different 100%. But I know, I'm pretty sure there's some kind of immune system in the brain. Oh, brain transplant. Thanks. You have a resident immune system in the brain. The macrophages in the brain are called microglia. Okay. You should do Kahoot with us to see if we've learned. What is Kahoot? Okay. I wonder if is there like a cute like little video to wrap it all together? Okay, 3 years, 57K views. Yikes. 100K views and Vsauce. This is 2 years old. His is 9 years old. This has bigger words in it. Destiny, amyloid isn't needed in your body, LOL. At all? Wait, why do we have it then? Oh wait, is it just like a byproduct of some other thing and that's why we get rid of it? Like lactic acid or whatever? Is it just like a byproduct created or whatever? Oh, okay. Then maybe you don't need any of it all then.
The brain's cognitive functions include memory, which is the process of information retention and retrieval. Memories form in the hippocampus, which consists of information processing cells called neurons. Each neuron receives chemical messages from other neurons via dendrites, then converts the message to an electrical charge called an action potential. In the space between them.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, this is 2016. Fuck. We'll just watch the Vsauce one after. Fuck it.
Neurons release stimulatory chemicals called neurotransmitters.
Holy shit!
Which bind with receptors on the receiving cell and transfer information. Alzheimer's disease is a gradual, degenerative brain condition in which neurons in the memory and other cognitive areas of the brain lose function and die, resulting in progressive memory loss first, then difficulties learning and communicating, and eventually failing basic functions like breathing.
Thank you.
In healthy neurons, enzymes help process a protein called amyloid precursor protein into fragments which help with normal cell function. In Alzheimer's, abnormal enzymatic processing produces fragments that include a sticky peptide called beta amyloid.
Beta?
Beta amyloid accumulates in the extracellular space, forming clumps called amyloid plaques. These clumps block the electrical and chemical connections between neurons. Inside healthy neurons, microtubules and tau proteins form an orderly structure that carries ions and nutrients within the cell. In Alzheimer's, chemical changes inside the neurons damage tau.
Whoa!
Twisting microtubules abnormally into neurofibrillary tangles, which disrupts ion and nutrient delivery within the cell. As the plaques and tangles multiply throughout brain tissue, neural connections diminish.
What the fuck?
And the malnourished cells lose function, resulting in widespread neural death,
Whoa.
reduced brain mass,
Whoa.
and severe cognitive and functional impairment. There is no cure for Alzheimer's, but current treatments include cholinesterase inhibitors, which delay the breakdown of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter important for memory and learning, and anti-glutamatergic medications, which regulate the activity of glutamate, another neurotransmitter essential for memory and learning, by blocking excessive glutamate binding to neurons, thus preventing neuronal dysfunction and death.
Thanks. I don't know how this is so fucking boring, though. Jesus. Okay, Vsauce, make this more entertaining.
Brain.
Okay, I feel like this is not very information dense about Alzheimer's disease. But okay. Hey, we watch this video. Fuck whoever recommended this. I hate all of you. Okay, tomorrow we're going to watch that Fuentes Sam Hyde video. I swear to God, it's going to be so awesome, guys. Fun. Okay. Tissue, work, pluck, construction, crush, creepy, cream, resolve, rolling, repairs, shellac, I don't know what that is, toilet, grit, route, upgrades, and fortitude. Oh my God. Resolve, grit, fortitude, and please just, please, no. I don't know what this word is. Oh my God, kill me. Resolve, grit, fortitude. He's got a lot of tissue. He's got a lot of work. He's got a lot of pluck. Is that an expression? This is not real. Whatever, okay. Oh, when you close things, because it's under repairs, upgrades, construction, under work, renovations, okay, whatever. Rolling stone? Stones? Crushed stones? Route stones? No. Cream cheese? Is that like a disease? Like, I feel like crush syndrome is like a disease or something. I don't know what it is, or some syndrome. I feel like these are diseases. Crush shellac. I don't think it is though. What am I thinking of? These sound weird, I guess. Cream disease. I don't know. Oh my God, no, it's one away. Why? Fuck. Okay, French crepes, French cream, dairy cream, dairy crepes, dairy toilet. Things that spin or rotate, like a rolling thing. A toilet spins when you flush it. Crush. Tissue. Okay. One is off from these. I have no fucking idea. Fuck this. Trounce and kinds of soft or lightweight paper. I don't know what trounce even means. To defeat? Like cream them, I guess. We crushed them, routed the army, I guess. Shellac? What is it?
Shellac.
Shellacked. They got shellac. Okay, whatever. And then kinds of soft or lightweight paper. Rolling paper. Tissue paper. Who calls it tissue paper? Oh my God, tissue. Toilet paper. And crepe paper? Is that even a thing? Crepe paper? It's used for cooking? Your mom is used for cooking. Ha ha! Whoa, yeah! $9.50 or higher? And I'm banging all your moms. Tomorrow I'm coming. Okay, be careful. Burbrino, don't die.